a sky choked with black clouds, rain falling like blades, waters rising, consuming the land. A vessel, ancient and adrift, floats through the darkness. You know this image, a world drowned, a new one waiting to be born. But what if that image isn't myth? What if it's memory? Welcome back, Darklings. This is the Silent Lodge, where forgotten truths whisper through history. If you find mystery in myth and revelation in ruins, consider subscribing. It helps us keep decoding the stories the world has buried. Every corner of the world tells the same story, a divine warning, a devastating flood. One who survives. It's found in the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, but it's not just sacred texts. The same tale is spoken in jungles, deserts, frozen tundras, and far-flung islands long before these cultures ever met. And yet, there's something strange about this flood. In each version, it comes suddenly, violently, as if tearing through memory itself. But here's where it gets chilling. The oldest version of the flood myth? It doesn't come from Jerusalem. It doesn't come from Babylon. It comes from somewhere buried even deeper. Before Noah, there was Ziusudra. Around 1700 BC in ancient Sumer, a clay tablet tells of a man warned by the gods. A flood is coming, he's told. Build a vessel. Take the seed of life. Let it float above the chaos. Sound familiar? Later, the Akkadians would rename him Utnapishtim. His story, nearly identical. A god's warning. A giant boat. A world drowned. And once again, life begins anew. But this isn't where the flood stops. It never stops. In Greece, Deucalion and Pyrrha survive Zeus's wrath in a wooden chest. In India, the god Vishnu appears as a fish to warn Manu of rising waters. He builds a boat, ties it to the horn of the divine fish, and rides the storm. The Maya speak of a world destroyed by dark rain and cosmic anger. In China, ancient emperors battle floods so immense, only heavenly guidance can tame them. In Aboriginal Australia, great floods are remembered not with fear, but reverence as the reset of the world. From the frozen Andaman Islands to the Amazon basin, the flood tale survives in different voices, different gods, but always the same pattern. Water rising, destruction sweeping in, and a single chosen soul who carries life through chaos. Could all these stories be coincidence? A trick of human imagination? Or is something deeper surfacing? Because here's the question historians and scientists are quietly asking. How can cultures separated by oceans, languages, and thousands of years all remember the same thing? Why does a flood appear where there are no rivers? Why do people who never saw rain still tell of drowning skies? One answer is emerging, and it's not myth, it's geology, it's climate, it's memory. Not of a single flood, but of many, and not 5,000 years ago, but closer to 10. If you're still with us, Darkling, hit that subscribe button. The deeper we go, the stranger it gets. And the flood is only beginning. 10,000 years ago, Earth began to thaw. The Ice Age was ending, but what followed wasn't peace, it was collapse. Ice sheets the size of continents cracked and fell into the sea. The meltwater didn't trickle, it surged. Scientists call them meltwater pulses. Sudden, brutal surges of sea level rise, up to 30 feet within a human lifetime. Entire coastlines vanished. Rivers reversed. Ancient villages, temples, and trade routes disappeared beneath rising tides. In northern Europe, there was a place called Doggerland. It connected Britain to the mainland. People hunted there, raised children. Now it lies under the North Sea, a sunken world, lost in silence. In Southeast Asia, another land, Sundaland, the size of modern India, was swallowed by the sea. It connected Indonesia, Malaysia, and mainland Asia. Now, Only scattered islands remain above the waterline. And in the Black Sea, researchers found sediment layers with salt water on top of fresh water. This suggests an abrupt, massive flood, one so violent, some believe it inspired the biblical flood story. But the evidence doesn't end at the shoreline. It rises from the ruins of cities like Shuruppak and Kish in ancient Mesopotamia, where layers of thick flood sediment abruptly cut off entire civilizations. This wasn't just climate, it may have been catastrophe. Around 12,800 years ago, the Earth entered a strange, sudden freeze, known as the Younger Dryas. Crops failed, ice returned, and then something struck. One theory suggests a comet or asteroid slammed into the North American ice sheet. The blast would have vaporized glaciers, lit the skies with fire, and triggered floods, quakes, and climate chaos across the globe. Charcoal layers found on multiple continents suggest global wildfires. Shocked quartz hints at a high-energy impact. And bones of extinct animals are frozen in time, buried under layers of sudden mud and ice. The kind of cataclysm people don't just survive, they remember. For thousands of years, in whispers, in warnings, in stories passed from mouth to mouth, carved into stone, sung around fire, written into scripture. Even the philosopher Plato, writing in 360 BC, speaks of a mighty civilization drowned in a single day and night. Atlantis. Most say it's allegory, but Plato gives a date, 9,000 years before his time. That places it squarely at the end of the Younger Dryas. Could Plato have heard echoes of a real event? A memory passed down from a time when oceans rose like monsters and swallowed cities whole? Again and again, across time and continents, the story returns. A flood, a warning, a reset. The myth repeats itself, perhaps because it isn't a myth at all. You're not imagining it, Darkling. The flood stories are multiplying, and the deeper we dig, the closer we get to the truth that was never meant to be buried. In every version of the flood myth, there is a voice, divine or mysterious, that whispers a warning, a dream, a vision, a command to build. The story doesn't begin with disaster, it begins with knowledge given to one. In the Epic of Atrahasis, the gods are disturbed not by evil but by noise. Humanity has grown too loud. To silence the chaos, the gods send a flood. But one man, Atrahasis, is warned and told how to survive. In the Book of Enoch, the cause is corruption. Not human alone, but otherworldly. Ancient beings, called the Watchers, descend to earth and reveal forbidden knowledge, metallurgy, sorcery, even writing. Civilization rises too fast. The balance is broken. From their union with humans came the Nephilim, giants of legend, destroyers of order. Their hunger consumes the earth. A civilization rises too fast. The balance is broken. From their union with humans came the Nephilim, giantened. So, the flood is sent not only to cleanse, but to reset the world. The stories don't just blame humanity's sins, they warn about forbidden knowledge, a line crossed. Civilization advancing beyond what the gods allow. The flood is not just punishment, it's a restart. And what is built in these stories is always extraordinary. In Sumerian texts, the ark is a massive round coracle, a bowl-shaped vessel that floats but doesn't steer. In Gilgamesh, the ark is a perfect cube, sealed on all sides. In Genesis, Noah builds a rectangular structure like a great chest. No sails, no rudder, just space. A box designed not to move, but to survive. All three shapes, round, cube, chest, from different cultures, different eras, yet all are the same in function. Even more strange, the dimensions in each story, though measured in different units, calculate to nearly the same usable volume, around 15,000 square cubits. Large enough to carry not just people, but a world's worth of life. In 2014, British curator Irving Finkel translated a Babylonian tablet with exact construction details, wood types, pitch, and internal layout. A team reconstructed the round ark described, and it floated. Not a ship, a survival capsule. That's when a new question emerged. What if the ark wasn't just a boat for animals? What if it carried something else, something more important? In the Hindu tale of Manu, the ark carries not only survivors but seeds, the origins of every plant, animal, and life form. In Zoroastrian myth, Yima builds an underground structure, a vault, to preserve the best of mankind before the deluge. Some Mesopotamian versions say the ark carried tablets, records, and instructions, blueprints for rebuilding society. Sacred texts, knowledge, memory. Could the ark have been more than wood and pitch? Could it have been a vessel of knowledge, a floating library, hidden from the flood and maybe from the gods themselves? Darklings, if this mystery moves you, make sure you're subscribed to the Silent Lodge. This journey isn't just about ancient stories, it's about who we were and what we chose to carry into the future. Today, high in the Arctic, buried deep within a mountain in Norway, there exists a modern ark, the Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Inside, samples of the world's crops are stored in case of global disaster. It's a real-life version of those ancient stories, not just surviving, but preserving. This vault isn't for people, it's for memory. Genetic memory. Seeds, code, DNA, blueprints of life stored against fire, flood, or famine. Could ancient people have done the same, in a way we've forgotten? In myth, the ark ends its journey on a mountain, a symbol of safety, of the world beginning again. In the Islamic tradition, Noah's Ark comes to rest on Mount Judi in southeastern Turkey. In the Bible, it's Mount Ararat. High in the Ararat region at a site called Durupinar, a boat-shaped formation stretches over 500 feet. Some believe it is the fossilized impression of Noah's Ark. Others say it's a natural formation shaped by erosion and landslides. Whether artifact or illusion, the mystery remains unsolved. But just 300 meters away lies a site even more unsettling. A place that may have been built because of the flood, not just after it. Göbekli Tepe, a name meaning Potbelly Hill. For centuries, it was thought to be nothing more than a rise in the earth. But in 1994, excavations revealed the unimaginable. Massive T-shaped stone pillars, arranged in circles, carved with images of animals, vultures, snakes, lions, boars. Symbols whose meaning is still debated. Archaeologists date the site to 9,600 BC, over 11,000 years ago. That makes it older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids, older than writing. A megalithic temple built by people who, according to history, shouldn't have known how. And here's the strangest part. The site was intentionally buried. Carefully, methodically, as if someone wanted it hidden or preserved. A memory sealed in stone, just like the seeds in a vault. The timing is uncanny. Göbekli Tepe was built at the very end of the Younger Dryas, the same period when floods ravaged the world, when the ice sheets collapsed, and when, according to Plato, Atlantis sank beneath the sea. Some of the animals carved into the stones don't even belong to the region. Could they be symbolic, memories of a time before? Or are they something more, a record of what was saved? One pillar, the so-called vulture stone, may depict star alignments, constellations frozen in time. Some researchers believe it marks the date of a cataclysm, not just a temple, but a calendar of disaster. Could Göbekli Tepe be the altar mentioned in Genesis, where Noah offers thanks after the flood? Or is it something older, a monument left behind by survivors of a world we've forgotten? In the silence of those stones, something still speaks. A warning? A remembrance? Or perhaps a message, carved not in fear, but in hope. Across the world, strange echoes remain, whispers of a flood in places where water should never have been. In the Sahara, ancient rock art shows long boats sailing across what is now endless desert. The sea was there once, and perhaps the memory still is. In the Siberian highlands, boat-like carvings are etched into mountain stones far from any ocean. In the Andean mountains of Bolivia, near Lake Titicaca, legends speak of floods that came before the sun itself was born. And in Egypt's Bahariya oasis, fossilized fish lie entombed in limestone hills, creatures of the deep left behind in the heart of the desert. Stories, symbols, artifacts, all pointing to a truth no one dares to claim. What if these are not isolated myths? What if they are fragmented memories, passed down through time, carried in genes, art, and ritual, from a moment the world nearly ended? Not just a flood of water, but of meaning. Not the end of the earth, but the end of a world. A civilization drowned not once, but possibly many times, in a cycle older than writing, older than history. Many traditions speak of worlds before this one. In Hopi belief, we are now living in the fifth world. The four before were each destroyed by fire, by ice, by floods. In each, a few survived to carry the story forward. In Hindu cosmology, time is a cycle. Each yuga ends in collapse and then begins anew. The Maya tell of gods who created and destroyed four worlds before ours, each one failing when humanity lost balance with nature. Some Aboriginal stories speak of suns that came and went, each world lit by a different light, each ending in devastation. In Norse myth, even the gods cannot escape. After Ragnarok, the sea swallows the earth before life rises once more. Creation, destruction, renewal. Again and again, a lone survivor, a divine warning, and the knowledge to begin again. The pattern repeats not because it's convenient, but because it's burned into our collective soul. So we return to the question, what if the flood myths are not just metaphors? What if they are history, fragmented, reinterpreted, half-remembered, but real? And what if they survived because they were meant to? Not bedtime tales, but signals, messages, warnings passed down to say, this has happened before, and it can happen again. Not because of wrath, but because of us. Where do we stand in the cycle now? Have we grown too loud for the gods once again? Have we forgotten the lessons carved in stone, buried in ice, and whispered in rain? If you believe stories have power, not just to entertain, but to remember, then subscribe to the Silent Lodge. Because here, we don't just tell tales. We listen to the voices history tried to silence. Until next time, Darklings, stay watchful, stay curious, and never forget, every myth was once memory.